Okay, you're all set, Gabe.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of February 23rd, 2021, 7 p.m. web-based meeting. First on our agenda is a public hearing continued. Victoria Heron, Tracy Costello. Site plan 8-30G, additional 5 units, 28 South Street. And Steve, are you going to open this for them?
Yeah, I will. I don't see Neil. He might have conflicts like he had last night at wetlands. Steve Trinkus for the applicant. I'm a professional engineer with an office in Southbury, representing Tracy. So I will now share my screen. Hopefully everybody will see this.
Before Steve continues, I apologize, Steve, bring up your stuff. I just want to review with the commission where we're at right now. Just so you're aware that Steve submitted revised drawings on the 18th. I did forward them to Wright Pierce, the Public Utilities, and the Fire Marshal. I don't have any responses as of today. And I also made note to you guys that the Health Department memo dated 2/2/21 never made it to you guys, but Steve clarified that to me this evening. It was sent to them in a timely fashion, and he did respond to that, and he will be addressing that tonight. Let's see, and also just for the record too, that we have had, of course, a conversation with Lieutenant Robert Durkin from the police department, and they have no comments in regards to this application. I'm sorry, Steve. So I think I just clarified a lot of it. So
no problem at all. So, I'll run through the changes that we made to the plan. Most of them were very minor and kind of housekeeping in nature. This comment also
Steve,
came up.
I don't mean to interrupt, but could you make your screen bigger, Steve? Bring it up to 125.
It's already
I can't see that for beans.
I have a full screen. That's a. I'm not sure. This worked fine last night.
Okay.
It's like tiny.
Yeah, because I see my whole title page, so and I have a big monitor.
Pretty
The
small.
text is fine. It's the building that's small.
Yeah, but we're gonna get, this is just an overall, this is the title sheet. We're gonna get to the larger plans in a minute, but
Hi, I'm so sorry. It's Penny Kessler, and I apologize to everybody. I at the beginning of a big crisis in my congregation with a congregant, and I may have to jump off. So if I do, please excuse me.
Okay, thank you, Penny, for letting us know.
Hope everything
we'll
goes
try to
well.
get everything done quickly for you, Penny, in case you have to leave.
Great, thank you, Steve.
Under the planning and zoning regulations, there's a requirement to show topography and off-site buildings within 50 feet of the site. Now, surveyors don't have the legal ability to go on other people's property except to look for monumentation. So what I did on the title page was in the upper left from the town of Bethel GIS. I took the site area with topography to show that, and then the image below it is the most recent aerial, which shows the buildings in relation to the site. It's outlined in red in the color photo, and it's a darker line, the 28 South Street in the upper one. So let me just now go to one of the larger sheets. This site utilities drawing. There's already existing sanitary and sewer that serve the existing house. We're simply going to be extending those. We're not replacing the line out to the road. We're simply extending them from where they terminate at the current time up to the new building. In an email I just sent to Beth before the meeting, I had done the cut and fill volumes as a request by Wright Pierce. Didn't realize they got on a layer that I see but doesn't plot. And when I was looking at the PDF, I couldn't figure out where they were, and I found out they weren't plotting. So I'll go through those volumes quickly, and I'll add them to the plan, and then send Beth a revised copy. Basically, the grading is really mild on the site. For the bioretention cell, which is located to the west of the existing house, this is our stormwater management system. there'll be a cut of 42 yards. There'll be a fill less than 5 yards, so not much dirt there. For the parking area here, there's a cut of about 350 yards, most of which is the parking area right in front of the new building, and a fill of about 25 yards. And then for the building itself, there's a cut of about 45 yards and a fill of 15. So overall, a fair, a small amount of site excavation for this. Wright Pierce had a comment about the separating distances for the sewer and water laterals. For main lines, it has to be a 10-foot separation if we're out in South Street. Once you're doing a service line, they can actually be in the same trench, separated by 3 foot horizontally and 18 inches vertically. In this case, the water and sanitary lines are 7.5 feet apart. So we easily meet that requirement. Trees were shown to be removed. There were a couple that were not marked, and they've been marked by designation in parentheses TBR, to be removed. The curbing will right adjacent to the house. Wright Pierce had a comment about that. It will be just outside the wall of the house to give us our 20-foot width, as we have a retaining wall located on the east side of the driveway, which is higher than our driveway, so I cannot go anywhere that way.
Excuse me,
there was a-
Steve, go back to your sanitary service and
Yeah,
and water
yeah.
line.
Yes.
Are they just mislabeled? Because Doug,
No,
on the other,
The sanitary line, this is the end where my mouse is right here, where it says CO clean out. That's
Okay,
the end of
right.
the sanitary line, and that line is the double SS.
right,
The water line is, actually, the water line, it moved over, the public
The
utilities.
gas
Tom
line.
Villa had a comment, instead of it being, it was in the driveway 7.5 feet from the sewer. He
right.
had a comment that he didn't want the curb box to be in the driveway. So I moved the water line for the new building
On the
to
other
the
side of
west
that
side of
whole
the
house.
house. Yeah,
Okay,
to the west side of the house, so it will run straight in. So there's really no separating issue now.
okay,
That way the curb box will be in the sidewalk where he requested it to be.
okay.
As far as that goes.
And the
Um,
other line is just the gas line running in. next
Correct,
to the
yes.
sewer. Okay, very good. Thank you.
There was a question that Barry had about the footing drains for the house. It does have a basement. It is all pure sand out here. I don't know if there's footing drains. No piping was observed. But, it's obviously functioned well for a long time. All of the pavement that currently exists in the narrow driveway and curbing that's there will all be removed as we construct the new driveway. I did add a note to that effect. We also clarified the width of the sidewalks for the new building. It's 4 foot wide. This label was already here, but the entrance areas to each unit were labeled where it's a combined 2 units, it's 8 foot. An individual is 4, so we added those. The bollard lights, we have a generic detail for them. They obviously have to be night sky compliant per the Bethel regulations, and there's a litany of manufacturers that you can pick from depending on how you want the top of the bollard to work. In the drainage analysis, and let me just go out to that particular plan, there is an off-site area that goes up in Overlook Park. At the present time, a lot of this area drains, it goes through Tracy's property, but actually goes to the Bethel Capital property where the house and condominiums are to the west. I spoke with the owner there after his attorney had reached out to Attorney Marcus, and he was concerned about getting more water. And so in looking at this, what we did is we're going to put in a yard drain and a berm along our western property line to direct that overland area to a yard drain that will then be tied into the level spreader up here from the bioretention system, again, which is stone in all sand. This will greatly reduce the drainage area that goes to the Bethel Capital property and pretty much eliminate any flooding issues he had. But it wasn't so much water from our site, it was water from the Overlook Park that was draining through there. Barry had made a comment about a separating distance of the bioretention system to the building. The DEP manual has guidance of 25 feet. And it's important to note that this manual is now basically 20 years old. And at the time it was developed, especially with the lid standards, they didn't know how water really moved into the soil and, you know, things like that. And now what they have found in the lid world, which is my area of expertise, is you don't need to be 25 feet from a building. The contours actually go to the west, and water that will infiltrate vertically will ultimately move west. It's not going to move to the east towards the building because that's simply higher elevation. The invert of the pipe from the bioretention system, an overflow pipe, is about 4 inches down into the stone trench here. It's not buried deeply. Barry had a question about maintaining it, and there's not going to be any need to maintain it because you're going to maintain the bioretention system itself. And these are elevated pipes. So any sediment that might come in from the drainage system into the bioretention system gets picked up off the soil media. It never gets into these pipes, which would get to the level spreader. Because of the soils out here are extremely coarse sands, I will tell you that even for a 100-year event, this bioretention overflow system will not see water. The infiltration rates are very, very fast here. And we modeled it with half of that. So if we, let me just go back to the plan with the soil test data on it here. I mean, we had infiltration rates between 10 and 14 inches an hour, which are expected for this kind of sand. We modeled it at 5 inches an hour. So even if you had a rainstorm that dropped 5 inches in an hour, this system would still fully infiltrate it. You don't find kind of soils like this very often. Barry had a question about filter fabric around the stone. We don't put filter fabric in either the bioretention system or the stone spreader, because if that gets clogged, you have to dig up the entire system. This level spreader will be more of, 4 to 6 inch diameter rock that it's not going to be prone to clogging for that. We clarified in the stormwater report the groundwater recharge volume with the revised watershed areas. So the water quality volume and the groundwater recharge volumes have been all adjusted as needed. The fire marshal had a comment about being able to turn the fire truck around under the Connecticut Fire Safety Code if the driveway is over 150 foot. From the edge of South Street to the point where it hits the parking lot right here at the island is actually 143 feet. I discussed this with Joe Versteeg, who is a fire expert that I've used on many other affordable projects. And Joe said, as long as you've got a big enough parking area that the fire truck can make a multiple point turn, that's fine. He also said that if the building will have 2-hour firewalls, which I spoke with, emailed back and forth with the architect, he said we can do, then the Connecticut Fire Safety Code requirement of turning the fire truck around does not apply. But in any case, we have a much bigger parking lot than we had originally here by about 22 foot in width. So if a fire truck previously could come up the driveway and turn around in the parking lot, it can clearly do so here. Tom Villa asked for a clean out on the sanitary line at the new building, which I have added. Just zoom in here, right out here opposite the building. Again, we moved the water line so the meter pit is in the sidewalk as requested. He noted that we can probably go to 1.5 inch water line, so that's what we have done. And also there will be copper. He asked for a detail of a slide box for the water meter. In looking online, I didn't see anything different than what I had on the plan. And if Tom does have a specific detail in mind, we'd be happy to add that as a condition of approval on the construction drawings. He didn't know if an additional hydrant was needed. We actually have a hydrant right here off the northwest corner of the property on South Street. The health department memo talked about there were some prior lead issues, I guess, from the roof. back in '03 when the study was done. And what they did was remove 4 inches of soil under the drip line of the house, around the house, and replace it with either landscaped areas or gravel. We're not disturbing any of that area around the house at all. All the disturbance is actually outside the limit of the existing development, whether it's the walkways or the decks. So, my client is aware that there were issues, but they were addressed at that time. They talked about a phase 1 requirement. In my experience, a phase 1 environmental assessment is generally requested by a lender, on a site to make sure, obviously, it's clean. It wasn't needed in this case because of how Tracy purchased the property. We have an 8x8 dumpster pad here, straight off the end of the driveway. They say, the health department, I should say, says, well, based on comments from private haulers, they recommend a 10x12. I will tell you, for this size of 11 units, the dumpster and recycling bins can fit in an 8x8 pad. We actually have a project with 40 units in Southport that had, not Southport, Milford, and it had a dumpster pad the same size, and it's never been an issue. And that really is a response to all of the comments. As I said, I will send Beth a new set of PDFs that have the volumes on a layer that is readable on the plans. So, one additional thing came up on, actually, this was a post on one of the Bethel groups that I'm on. The owner to the east, she has a carriage barn here and a deck off of it, and there's some existing trees. And the existing trees are on her property, the 18 and 24-inch maple. And she was concerned about, screening in that area. So what I just did was add 4 arborvitaes amongst the existing trees there to provide additional screening to the rear of her barn at that location. But we have 1 sugar maple and then 4 arborvitaes, and you have the existing maples that are on her property. So we added that on there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission or public may have.
Steve, in regards to going back to your trees, go back to where your
Oh, okay.
arborvitaes are, if you don't mind, just for a minute.
Yep.
And then go to where the water line is now on the left-hand side of the property. There's a rather large oak that it looks precarious. Is the water line going through the oak?
We'll have the contractor sweep around it. That's a construction issue, but I'll say to save the oak, wherever Tom Villa wants the water line coming in, we'll follow his recommendation. Likely we could come in closer to the walkway, come up towards the house, and then just go to the west and then back south again.
I mean,
So-
you understand what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
it's
Oh, I do. Yeah.
substantial oak and it's been there for
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
years.
We'll keep the tree.
Better than I do.
Yeah.
If-
We'll
if-
keep the tree in any event.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. As this is a continuation of a public hearing, we'll move out to the public if they have any questions. Steve, if you could remove your map from the screen.
Oh, sure. Let me
Thank you.
stop that. No, that's no problem.
All right, so if anyone in the public wishes to ask a question, simply go down to participants, click on your name, and there'll be an opportunity showing a hand that you can raise, and you can ask your question. Beth, are you seeing anyone?
I don't know. No.
I'm just out there looking right now.
I don't see anyone.
No, I'm not seeing anyone. All right, if there are no questions from the public, then we'll move to commission members.
Pat,
And-
I just want to mention, excuse me, before you do that, I do see that Neil is here.
Yes. Good evening.
Hey, Neil,
Yeah, I apologize for being late, but I had some internet issues
Oh,
resolved.
Well, I'm the technical person for the evening, so we're both in good shape.
Yeah, but you're at your house and I'm at mine.
Yeah, that's true.
You live
Neil,
in the
is there anything
backwoods
you
of
wanna
Reading,
add?
Neil.
Yeah,
That's why
Steve
there's,
knows
that's why there's no internet.
we're
Yeah, 'cause
lucky to
Reading-
have it, period.
Reading won't allow them to have it. Too many
Well,
polls.
from
So
what
Tracy
people
probably would
post-
expect a discount tonight.
Well,
Yes.
I guess, is it Optimum in Reading? That's the only service that you have. There's a lot of people that complain about that all the time. So
There's one choice,
one choice.
one choice.
Monopoly.
Okay.
Neil, is there anything you want to add before we
No.
move to commission comments?
No, I'm happy. I mean, in reality, all of the issues are technical, dealing with the site plan itself, and Steve's really addressed them.
Okay, then we'll move to commission members. Kitty,
Okay, Pat, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring up the issue about the handicap.
sure.
There's no handicap parking, but before we get to that, this is an 830G. Where are the affordable units?
They have to be a mix in both buildings, Kitty. There has to be a total of 30% between the two buildings. So there'll be a mix. There's some
Oh,
in the
okay,
existing house, I believe, that actually qualify under Section 8 level housing, which is a lower price point than even 8-30G.
of course, yeah, right.
So-
Now, is there going to be any handicap parking at all?
There was not, because there's none of the units are ADA, none of the units are proposed for ADA.
Now with excuse me for asking the question, I ask because I don't know the answer. With affordable housing, you don't have to have ADA at all?
No, you don't.
That's
You
correct.
can, I have had clients that have offered it when the site is appropriate for it, or if they have an elevator.
Okay, all right. The only other thing I have right now then is if you go to the Wright and Pierce letter, look at number 16. And then look at your number 16. They don't match. Wright and Pierce is talking about snow removal, snow storage. And your 16, you're talking about the width of the sidewalk.
Okay, I'm looking. I may not
Although I
have.
think that there is a concern for snow storage without blocking parking spaces or the flow of traffic. That was your number 16. Your
Okay,
16
yeah,
says,
okay. Snow storage, again, if I'm gonna send Beth a revised set of PDFs, snow storage would be between the parking lot and the bioretention system off that edge of the parking lot, so that the water can melt. We'll add that to the plan. That's not a problem.
okay, that's good.
So,
Okay, and the other thing is, Mr. Vila had said the fire marshal should comment as to whether an additional hydrant is necessary. Has this been forwarded to Mr. Galliford to comment on that? But I know that you said there's one, but Thomas is talking about an additional one.
yeah, in Tom's comments, which he submitted in writing, he did not mention any other hydrant, Kitty.
No, he didn't, but
So-
I think maybe we'll have to look at that and ask him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if, you know, he didn't touch that either way.
Okay, well, thank you. So for me, that's it for me.
Thanks, Kitty. John,
I have a question on the floor plan of the buildings. When I was reviewing them, it almost looked like they were mismarked, the second floor and the first floor. Neil, I don't know if this is for you, Tracy, or Steve, to explain the reasoning why the sleeping quarters are on the ground floor, and it looks like there's no windows in the back, and that leads my question to excavation and fill. You said there's only 42 yards that are coming out. So I guess that's kind of where my question is, if you could explain the floor plan and the reasoning for putting the beds on the first floor and then the living area on the second.
I could speak to
I'll
the,
let Tracy handle that one.
okay. So the hi, everybody. I'm Tracy. Nice to meet you all. So the topography of the property is basically at grade where the existing Victorian is. And then it goes up probably 6 or 7 feet and then goes out to this beautiful rock outcropping that separates the property from the park. When we looked at the property, in order to have the most minimum impact in putting up a building, it made sense to build into the grade. So when we looked at it, just from like a quality of life perspective, it made sense to put the bedrooms on the first floor and have the kitchen and the living area upstairs, so you would have a walk out. So the first floor gets natural light from the front. The building is then set into the grade. And then you really only have a one-story building when you're looking at it from the back. And then people will be able to access the property and have some green space back there and have a patio.
Okay, so my follow-up question so the den / office, does that restrict it from being a bedroom officially, because there's no egress, there's no windows back there? Yeah.
I can't answer to that from a building perspective, but the last project I built on Greenwood, and then just from renting properties in town, there's been a very big need for a home office. Everybody's working from home. So these are really 1 bedrooms with offices. I mean, I don't know how you could stop somebody from putting a bed in there, but these properties are 1 bedroom apartments with offices. I mean,
They
so
normally have no door
yeah, well, there's a door just going straight out. I mean, it's
and they have no closet into that room that's
Yeah.
being used as an office.
Yeah, I mean,
If
there
it's a
is a
den.
coat closet there, but that's the first floor entrance. But I'm happy to work with whatever you guys think is right. But
Well, my question was just, it was part of the application that there was floor plans, and I was just confused for a little bit, because I always envisioned bedrooms being on the walk
yeah,
up.
I mean, it really is. It's an upside down house. It's no different than a raised ranch. And the reason we did it that way is, one, so we wouldn't have as much excavating. So it would only be 1 story from the back, and that people would have their living space. Instead of having their bedroom with the patio, the patio is now connected to the kitchen. It just makes sense from like a play area, a barbecue, and all of that.
Okay, all right. That's all I had. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, John. Penny?
No questions.
Ken?
Looks okay. No questions.
Rob Stoll?
Nothing. John covered what I was thinking.
And Rob Wallace?
I apologize if this has been covered before, but is there access to Overlook Park from the property?
It directly abuts the park, Bob. So the residents here could walk that way, but there would not be public access to other people.
Yeah, if I remember right, there's a pretty steep slope there. I didn't know if there were any trails that come down or public access concerns.
No, but I can tell you the surveyors ran into a black bear when they were out there. So probably a den in that ledge somewhere. So.
Oh, that's whose tracks I've been seeing. Okay.
I will say that the back property as well is full of Japanese knotweed and a very invasive maple,
Ooh, knotweed. Ooh.
parviflora. So I'm actually, to be honest, very keen on eradicating both of those invasives and replanting some stuff after the building's up.
That would be
Good
great.
luck with the knotweed.
Yeah, I
It
know.
literally grows an inch a week.
Yeah, it's one
It's
of our,
growing into the cemetery on Main Street, and you can watch it cover week by week the gravestones.
Mhm.
That was my only question.
I just had a couple of questions.
You got Linda. Linda's on the
Steve, I
call
think-
too, Pat.
I'm sorry?
Linda's on the call as well. Linda.
Oh, I'm
Curtis.
sorry, Linda.
Oh, no, thank you. My questions have actually already been answered. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Linda. There was a question. It was number 18 from
Right here.
our engineers. And the question was, provide a plan showing underground electric for parking lot lighting. And Steve, you answered this with, this is a construction issue and not an engineering issue.
Yeah,
Who
Eversource,
then at the time this goes to construction, who's already set up the details of how this is to happen?
Eversource will set it up. They are in charge of determining how you bring the power in from the road to your building, if you need a
Okay.
transformer. And they're in charge. I can show, as we did on Shelley Road, a conceptual line, but it's really meaningless because Eversource tells you what they want, and that's,
Oh.
you don't get to negotiate with them.
Right.
Right.
So
And then there was a question 12. that came from Wright Pierce, and it had to do with the footer foundation gutter drains. And they wanted to know the location, and you had indicated that no footing drains, building is on a slab. Is that correct?
Yeah, the back building is basically on a slab. It's cut into the
No,
hillside.
no, they're talking about the existing building.
Oh, no, the existing building does have a foundation, likely has, maybe it doesn't have footing drains because it's all in the sand. I mean, Tracy, how old is the house roughly?
So from what I gather, just from doing extra research on my own, I believe the house was built sometime in the mid 1850s to 1880s.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the Shepherd houses because your neighbor lives in the bigger Shepherd house, then you
Okay.
had a Shepherd house. And the house next to you toward the fire department is also a Shepherd house.
Okay.
And
So-
that brings up another question about the side yard.
Yeah.
It appears you're removing all of the green space on the side yard.
Well, no, it's
Steve,
actually just, it's kind of being transformed, Pat. The bioretention system is a vegetated system. I've made the slopes flatter. It can all be grass, so it can be maintained as the grass that it is today. So it's
good,
not going to
good.
be anything but grass. So,
Because we talked about that last week. We talked about that last week.
yes, yes. So
And
it's
just
all
as an
green. I mean,
FYI, those houses used to have a sunken garden, and that might be where the sunken garden was.
Oh,
Well,
interesting.
well, we dug two test pits there. We didn't find anything unusual. It was a couple inches of topsoil and then pure sand down to
Right.
8 or 9 foot.
Yeah, the
So,
sunken garden was between two of the houses there.
oh, interesting. Okay.
Let me see if there was anything else that I had. Oh, just dealing with the garbage enclosure. Of course,
Mhm.
I know, Steve, you have your idea, and then the health department has the requirement that she wants. So I guess that's going to have to go back to the health department to see how she feels about that. If she wants to stay with the size that you want, which is smaller, or you have to go with the requirement of our health department.
Well, I don't know if they have it in, there's nothing in the health codes about dumpster pads. In all my years of doing this, it's what you need for the proposed use.
I think that's going to be a discussion between you and Laura Basile.
Okay, that's fine.
I can answer that a little bit, Pat, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
I think the health department, with the help of the Planning and Zoning Commission, has become more fair and consistent with the requirements for garbage storage and things like that. They've been pretty consistent with their pad requirements over the last, I would say, year and a half. And we have tied, for the most part, anything that they have recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission to any Planning and Zoning Commission approval. So when it comes time for a CO, I can tell you there's been several instances where we've had issues, one even including the police department of the town of Bethel. So
I mean,
keep that in mind, everybody.
In looking at
Not
the
much to
plan,
ask for.
we can likely go 10 by 10, but if I go 10 by 12, I can't put that additional screening in that we'd like to near the neighbor. I won't simply have enough room to plant, but we can go to 10 by 10.
I don't know what I thought she was
I
asking.
think she was asking
Go to
10 by
10 by
12,
12.
12.
but you know, it's, like I said, then I can't put the added screening in. I'd rather have the screening. The 10 by 10, is
Well, of
more
course,
than
the
adequate for a dumpster and the recycling bins.
Okay, the screening is very important, obviously. So my suggestion to you, Steve, because I want to get this ironed out prior to any decision from the Planning and Zoning
Mhm.
Commission. I'm not going through what I've gone through in the past. So a dumpster pad is a minor adjustment. I would put it in writing that you want to maintain it at 10 by 10 or at a smaller scale due to the screening for the adjoining property
Yeah, and
owners.
I'll note that on the plans that I send you, Beth.
Thank
so
you.
we'll add it
I
right to-
appreciate it.
So Beth, then I'm correct, we will be waiting for something from Laura's department, and we'll also be waiting for something from our fire marshal.
Yeah.
Wright Pierce, the fire marshal, public utilities, and Laura.
Okay.
Basile. Also, I wanted to take the opportunity, if you're done, if the commission is done with some comments, since Tracy was here, I just wanted to ask her a question or two, if that's all right.
Yes, thank you.
Tracy, in regards to, I think John Lennon mentions, start talking about the den.
Mm.
or the office space. And I think we did discuss this a little bit last week.
Right.
Just to clarify, some of the commission members have been on here before, and I can't recall if Neil Marcus was the attorney for Lexington Meadows. Lexington Meadows was a condominium complex that was built many years ago,
Right.
and there was questions involving what is a bedroom, what is the den. There was a lot of concern expressed by the commission on the usage of the den for a bedroom, an extra bedroom, and things of that along those lines. Over the years, come to find out that yes, some of those dens were turned into bedrooms. We never became aware of it until the property was being sold. So we had to go through the process of getting them turned back into a den. The reason I think that this question is important is because there is a point system associated with 830G. These are rental units, and if it's a 2-bedroom unit, it's worth more points towards your 10% goal that you're always striving to meet of your affordable housing units. So I think that I do have confidence that in discussions with Tracy that we can figure out a way to ensure that there won't be changes along those lines. The other part of this is that I do think it's important for Tracy to talk about architecture and how she came about to choose the design she has. And we also have had conversations about that design, and I do feel a little bit more reassured, and I would like her to share some of those thoughts with the commission.
Thank you, Beth. So I recently did a project, my first building project in Bethel at 253 Greenwood. It's also an 1800s Victorian, and we just recently put a small barn on the back of it, and it worked really beautifully. And one of the reasons why I keep buying these houses from the 1800s, I live in one right in Silvermine and Wilton, is I love that period of architecture. I spoke to Beth briefly about our plans. First of all, I want to be very candid and honest. Steve worked so quickly that I was catching up to him. When I first started my first project in Bethel, it took me a year to get my surveying done. It took me a year to get my engineering done, and everything happened very slowly. And then I hired Steve, and I couldn't keep up with him. So I sent some pictures to the architect that who had drawn the barn for me at 253 Greenwood. And I said, this is sort of kind of what I'm looking to do. And he came up with a plan. And next thing I know, we are buttoned up and we have our application in town. So I haven't really had a long time to sit with the plans. So I actually sat with him this past week, and I've made some changes so the way the plan stands right now is generally what I'm looking to build, but I've made a number of changes just from an architectural standpoint that I wanted to really work with the architect. I'm actually meeting with him tomorrow. I really want the back property to look like a barn, like it's an accessory building to the original Victorian. It's a big building. There are lots of properties in Fairfield County with small houses and big barns. It was what the priority was back in the day. So I feel like we can put something together. So in looking at the plan, there were some things I wanted to change, and I talked to Beth about a few of them. One, I wanted the porticos to be a little bit more substantial. On the barn we put up on Greenwood, I had the sawmill make really nice, big, kind of chunky hemlock lumber posts for me, and we incorporated them there. That's something that maybe I will look into doing at this project, again, to make it look older and make it look a little bit more seamless. We did vertical siding because I don't know what I'm going to decide when I decide on my materials, but when I did all my research for the property on Greenwood, I ended up using boral siding. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's actually recycled coal ash that's made into siding. It doesn't rot. It's a recycled material. It's a sustainable product. So it works just so much better if you install it vertically. It just has a lot more longevity and durability, and also most of the barns have vertical siding. So I wanted to make the porticos look a little bit more antique and a little bit more substantial. I want to change the doors the way they are right now to a shaker style door, which we used at the barn on Greenwood. I'm thinking about, Beth, this is new because I just sat with the plans. the peaks right now of the gables, I was thinking
Mhm.
about narrowing them up so they look a little bit more from that era of the Victorian barns where they had the narrower
Narrow peaks.
narrow peak. So I drew that on the plan tonight. It looked great. Trying to think.
Okay, so in other words, Tracy, what you're trying to do is just convey, I thought it was important for you to convey to the commission that architecture is important,
Yes.
in keeping with your property and the work that you have already done on the property pertaining to bringing it back to from where it once was.
Right.
And,
And not only am I going through the process of getting the approvals, I'm going to oversee the building project and I'm going to manage the property just like I do on my other properties. It's not like I'm going to have a manager and I'm not going to know my tenants and I'm going to have people, expanding out and having 6 people living in an apartment. I take a lot of pride in being a good landlord, and I take a lot of pride in the properties. I mean, my real job in my real life is I'm a landscape designer, and basically I'm hired for my view and my aesthetic. That's what I've been doing for the last 25 years. So I take a lot of pride in what I'm doing, and when I go to work, I want to be proud of what I'm managing and what we've constructed.
thank you.
Excellent. Very good.
Pat,
Beth, did you want to add anything else, Beth?
not at this time.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to continue this hearing, to March 9.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, this hearing is continued to March 9th. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is our business meeting. And I'd like to seat Rob Stoll for Bob Legnard, and I'd like to seat Linda for Rich Tibbetts. So has everyone had an opportunity to read the meeting minutes? If so, if I may have a motion, please.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 9th.
In the seconds,
Thank you, Penny. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Friends, I'm going to jump off now. My congregant is calling me. Have a
Thank you,
safe
Penny.
evening, everybody.
Take care,
Night.
please.
Bye-bye.
We have no work sessions. We have, moving on to a bond release for
That is for Vale Crest
Vale
subdivision.
Crest subdivision, Vale Road.
It is next to the Michael's Grove.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that what it
Oh,
was
yeah, we
called?
know this. Yeah.
It used to be Caballeros Grove. It was a 10-lot subdivision.
They're all built.
It sat very quietly there for many years, and over the last 18 months has just blossomed, and they've wrapped it up. There's sidewalks installed there.
Yeah.
Everything is fairly close to being completion, and they're looking for a bond release at this time. And I apologize, the folder with that kind of information is, I left at work. But it was a letter of credit, and I can, if it's okay with you guys, I would recommend that the bond be released and that the Nancy will fill in the amount tomorrow as part of the motion.
Right. Do you need a motion on that?
Yes, we do.
If I
Yes.
may have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we release a bond in to be determined tomorrow by Nancy and Beth for
Vale Crest.
Vale Crest, sorry.
subdivision.
Yeah. And only because I've been a commissioner for a long time, that property sat there after we
Yeah.
approved it because the sewer lines,
Right.
after we decided we were going to put the sewer line up Val Road, we ran out of money in administration and we didn't do it. So they had to put septics and all in the backyards.
Right.
Right. That's right, John. I remember that.
May I have a second, please?
I'll
Second.
second.
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Moving on to the planning and zoning official report.
As far as my report is concerned, I think I said a little bit before, we have a lot going on in the office, dealing with building, requests for pool permits, additions, decks, and new construction on old lots that have been in existence for a long period of time and have not been developed. But at the same time, we also have a lot of inquiries into our TOD zone and into our Route 6 area, and some commercial development that will be coming in shortly. And it's 85% to 95% is very positive. And I'm just asking you all to get ready to have a busy summer. I think it's going to be another busy year.
Excellent.
Any commission comments?
I will say that one of the commission members did have speak to David. I didn't get a chance to speak to him today in regards to, I believe it's 123 Greenwood Avenue. The old, there's like a little house there, and there used to be antiques run there on the street corner across from P.G. Barnum Square.
Oh, yeah.
There have been a lot of complaints in regards to that condition of that property.
Yeah.
And the town of Bethel, it started with a blight complaint and went from the town of Bethel blight officer to the fire marshal and then to the state fire marshal's office. I don't have a firm response from the state fire marshal's office as far as them going forward with what they should be doing with it. So it may bounce back to us as the planning and zoning department to follow through with a blight complaint. And I just wanted you guys to be aware of it.
It looks like there's a hole in the side of the building.
It's a very difficult situation
I'll bet.
and very sad situation, but I believe that there's safety issues there now that have to be addressed.
Right.
Beth, I mean, it's a kind of an aside, but I mean, has anybody even seen Ollie in the last 4 to 6 months?
Yes,
Okay,
someone saw him down there around Christmas. If you're, we have tried very hard through very different resources to work with the property owner. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. And it's getting to be a very difficult situation. So I just wanted you all to be aware of it. Because it's just difficult. It'll be very difficult and sad. And that's all I have to say.
So again, any other commission comments?
And I welcome if anybody wants to call me at the office to talk about this, I'd be more than happy to fill you in. But I don't think it's appropriate. I just think it's appropriate for you to know that there's probably some action that's going to be taken.
Beth, I just have a comment. We talked about doing a site walk for South Street.
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking at when we have a decent day to go over there?
I think we have to wait for the snow to melt. I mean,
And yeah, because you wanted them to stake it out, and
yeah, but do you still want to go over there? Because I didn't hear too many takers on that.
I'd like to go over and look at it.
Oh, I would too. I went over a bit.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if the snow melts within the next 2 weeks or so, then I really think we should get over there, because I do get the impression that the hearing itself might wrap up on the 9th.
Right.
Because now it's supposed to be 50 degrees and then raining on the weekend, so.
Okay,
And they just have to stake out the area.
Yeah,
but it's going to be very difficult to stake that out in the snow, Pat.
No, I know, in the snow, yes.
So we have to get a snow melt in order for you to get out there.
Yeah, hopefully this week. It'll stay nice and warm.
Okay, all right.
All right, any public input?
Nope, not me.
public.
Hi, BJ.
Thank you, DJ. All right, if I may have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Kenny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?